The house felt unusually quiet that evening, too quiet, like it was holding its breath. I pushed open the front door and stepped inside, shaking the last bit of cold air from my jacket. The sky outside had been a deep, bruised purple, the kind that made the streetlights glow earlier than usual. Winter was definitely creeping in. Even the wooden floor under my shoes felt colder than it should have. It was supposed to be an ordinary night, routine, safe, but something felt off, like a puzzle piece had shifted while I was gone, so subtle no one else would notice, but impossible for me to ignore. I stood in the living room for a moment, letting my eyes adjust. Everything looked normal: the soft hum of the heater, the faint smell of laundry detergent from the morning wash, the couch cushions slightly uneven the way he always left them, and yet, my chest tightened with a strange unease. Why does it feel like something is about to happen? I shook the thought away and tried to laugh at myself. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe my mind was looking for drama where there was none. Still, as I walked deeper into the house, I couldn't ignore the tension coiling quietly in the back of my mind. His door was cracked open. A thin line of warm light spilled into the hallway, flickering softly like it was breathing. I paused. He rarely left his door open like that unless he wanted to talk, or unless he wasn't there at all. Hello. I called out gently. No answer. I told myself not to overthink it, but the silence felt heavier than before. A part of me wanted to push the door open. Another part whispered that I shouldn't. That crossing that line, even a small one, could change things in ways I wasn't prepared for. Instead, I moved toward the kitchen. The window above the sink was fogged from the heater, blurring the view of the street outside. I wiped a small circle with my sleeve and stared at the empty road. Not a single car. Not a single person. It's too quiet. Why did that bother me so much? Moments later, I heard the front door close softly. I turned around sharply, heart jumping. He walked in, hair slightly damp, cheeks flushed from the cold, eyes darker than usual. His expression froze when he saw me. "Oh, you're home," he said, voice quieter than normal. Something in the way he looked at me made my stomach twist. There was tension in his shoulders, like he'd been carrying a secret all day and didn't know how to put it down. "Yeah. Just got in," I replied, trying to sound casual. He nodded once and walked past me, but the air between us felt charged, like electricity just before a storm breaks. I watched the way his jaw tightened, the way his hand stayed curled at his sides, the way he didn't quite meet my eyes. What happened to him today? And why did I suddenly feel like it had something to do with me? He paused at his door. Didn't go inside, just stood there. Then he looked back over his shoulder, just for a second, and that single glance carried something I couldn't name, something unspoken, something dangerous, something that would change everything sooner or later. I swallowed hard, and somewhere deep inside me, a question formed. Was tonight really going to be just another normal night? Because suddenly, it didn't feel like it at all. If you want, I can continue with the rising action, 1,200 to 1,500 words, next. I don't remember walking back to my desk after leaving Azim's office. My legs carried me on autopilot, but my mind stayed trapped in that dimly lit room with him, his voice echoing, his stare burning into me. I found something. Why didn't you tell me? Those words replayed like a broken recording. What did he really know? I sat at my workstation pretending to work, blinking at the same spreadsheet for 10 straight minutes. Every time someone walked past me, I felt a jolt of paranoia. Maybe they knew something too. Maybe the whispers by the elevator weren't just gossip. Maybe the secret I'd kept so carefully tucked away had leaked out somehow. The idea was suffocating. By noon, the air in the office felt heavy, too heavy. I needed space. I needed to breathe. So I stepped outside, into the open balcony at the end of the corridor. The winter wind was sharp, slicing through my shirt, but the cold felt good. It grounded me. As I leaned against the railing, watching the traffic flow below like restless veins, a voice startled me. You look like you're about to jump. I spun around. It was Omar, my closest co-worker. He always had this annoying way of showing up when I least expected him. A loud personality, too much cologne, and a habit of talking too fast when he was excited. But today, he looked unusually serious. Rough day, he asked, stepping beside me. I shrugged. Just thinking. That's dangerous, he smirked, trying to lighten the mood. Around here, thinking gets you into trouble. Normally, I'd laugh. But not today. He studied my face for a moment, his expression tightening. You know, people are talking. My heart skipped. Talking about what? He hesitated, long enough for dread to seep through me. I don't know. Something about you, and Azim. My stomach turned. Omar continued, lowering his voice. He called HR for something this morning. Nobody knows why. But your name came up. Twice. HR, my throat dried instantly. I wouldn't worry, Omar added quickly. Maybe it's nothing. But just be careful. Be careful. Whenever someone says that, it's already too late. Later that day, the atmosphere in the office shifted again, but this time, there was no mistaking it. People weren't just whispering, they were staring. Some subtle, some not so subtle, glancing up from their screens when I walked by, turning quickly when I made eye contact, and that's when I realized something was deeply wrong, because the only person who wasn't avoiding me was Azim. In fact, he was watching me. Not obviously. Not intensely. Just enough. Enough for me to feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand. During a late afternoon meeting, every time I looked across the conference table, his gaze found mine. Calm. Controlled. But with a strange urgency underneath. At one point, he said my name while reviewing a project timeline. I flinched. He noticed, everyone noticed, and after the meeting, when everyone began to leave, Azim said, Arslan, stay behind. I want to discuss something. My pulse pounded when the room emptied. He closed the door with a soft click, too soft. The kind of soft that feels intentional, as if he didn't want anyone to hear what was coming next. He didn't sit. He stood a few feet from me, arms crossed, eyes sharper than I'd ever seen them. You've been avoiding me, he said. I've just been busy. He shook his head slowly. No. It's something else. I swallowed hard. The silence stretched between us, almost suffocating. Then he stepped closer. You're scared. I didn't answer. I didn't know what to say. He exhaled, pressing his fingers to the bridge of his nose as if fighting some internal battle. When he finally looked up again, the intensity in his eyes had softened. Just a little. Look, he said quietly. I'm not trying to intimidate you. I just need to know if you're okay. It was so unexpected I almost laughed. Okay, how could I be okay when he was acting like he knew something life-altering about me? Azim leaned against the table, his voice dropping. What I found, it wasn't meant to embarrass you. I'm not here to judge you. His words were gentle, too gentle for someone like him, and that terrified me even more, because people like Azim didn't soften unless they wanted something. Or unless they already knew something that gave them power. Can I ask you something? He said. I tensed. What? Why didn't you just tell me the truth from the beginning? There it was again, the assumption that I had been hiding something, but before I could respond, someone knocked on the door. interrupting the moment. Azim's jaw clenched in irritation. "Come in," he said coldly. HR stepped in. A woman with glasses, a clipboard, and a stiff smile. She glanced at Azim, then at me, then quickly back at Azim. "Sir, we need your signature on those confidentiality forms," she said. Confidentiality, the word hit me like a slap. What did Azim need confidentiality for, and why now, why today? He signed the papers without looking at them and handed them back. HR gave me a tight, unreadable smile. "We'll speak later." Later, about what? By the time she left, my hands were cold. Azim exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Arslan. I promise, this will make sense soon." But he didn't explain, and I was too afraid to ask. At home that evening after work, I rushed home faster than I ever had. My apartment was small but comfortable, a place I'd always felt safe. Neutral-colored furniture, a neatly organized living room, warm lights, and the faint smell of the vanilla candle I lit every evening. But tonight, the space felt different. As if I had carried the tension from work into every corner of the apartment. I checked my phone for the 100th time. No messages from Azim. No emails. No explanations, just silence. I stood by the window, watching the quiet street below. A stray dog wandered lazily past the street lamp. A motorbike sped by, its engine echoing through the night. For a moment, things felt normal until someone knocked on my door. A single, sharp knock. My heart jumped. No one visited me without calling first. I opened the door slowly. Nobody was there, only an envelope on the floor. My name written on it, handwritten. I picked it up with trembling fingers. Inside, there was a single piece of paper. No greeting. No explanation, just one line: "We need to talk. Don't keep hiding from me." Azim, he came to my house. Why didn't he stay? Why leave a note instead? I felt dizzy. How did he even know where I lived? I hadn't given him my address. HR had my records. Did they give it to him? Why would HR let him into my private information? Unless he asked for it, unless he had a reason to dig deeper. A reason connected to whatever he'd found. I sank onto the couch, staring at the note, my mind racing with questions I didn't want to ask. What exactly was he accusing me of hiding? What truth did he think I owed him? And why come to my home, my sanctuary, without warning? I reread the note. Don't keep hiding from me. Hiding what? My work, my past, my personal life, something he saw, something he thinks he knows. My breath quickened. Suddenly the walls of my apartment felt too close, as if the room were shrinking around me. And then another thought hit me, one more disturbing than all the rest. If Azim left this note, was he still nearby? I rushed to the window, scanning the street below. For a moment, I saw nothing, but then, near the edge of the street lamp's light, I noticed a silhouette, taller still, facing my building, and though I couldn't see his face, I knew it was him. Azim, watching, waiting for me, for a truth I wasn't ready to give. If you want, I can continue with the climactic moment, 800 to 1,200 words, next, slow, intense, dramatic, emotionally charged, and suspense-heavy.